Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Judy Blake, and I am the Leadership and Advocacy Coordinator for Family to Family Network. We are so happy that you have joined us today. We have a fabulous presenter. We have a wonderfully sized group, and I'm so thrilled that everyone took the time to be educated and then to lead to being empowered. So this session is being recorded. Before we get started, I wanted to introduce my amazing colleague, Leslie. Leslie's gonna wave there, there you go. And Leslie has been with Family to Family Network for a long time. We won't go there, Leslie. Let's just say many, many years. She is a parent liaison, and she is a wealth of knowledge. There's no way that I could do my job without her. And I thank her for her continued support as my incredible colleague. So just a couple of housekeeping notes. We have an excellent presenter today. Her name is Allison Schaberg, and she's president of a wonderful, wonderful company called CPG, Consolidated Planning Group. She's very dedicated to serving our families, and we truly admire her for that. We have a wonderful partnership with her that we know will continue for many years. So for her presentation, for those of you who have joined us before, normally I say, hold your questions till the end, but Allison doesn't want that. If you have a question after she says something, please go ahead and raise your hand, and I will, let her know that. And then we will stop at that point so you can ask your question. Please remember that no question is silly. Do not worry about asking something that you think everyone else is going to know the answer to. And why are you asking that question? This is a really, really safe space. And it's so important that we be supportive of each other. But if you don't feel comfortable asking your question, just private message it to me, Judy Blake, or you can private message it to Leslie if you'd like, Leslie Lawson. And we'll go ahead and just anonymously ask it on your behalf. So without much more to do, I want to welcome Allison Schaberg. And it took me forever to learn how to pronounce your name. I'm like, And then I realized. So we're so happy to have you, Allison. We thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. And we just truly appreciate your expertise.
Thank you so much. Bear with me one second. I'm going to get this pulled back up.
Sure.
See if I can start it from the beginning.
Sure. And Leslie, I'm going to make you a co-host as well, so that you can admit people or whatever it is that you need to do.
Okay. Are you guys seeing that on your screen?
No, we're only seeing, yeah, you want to make it presenter view so that we just see the one slide and not all the other slides as well.
Okay, so that's interesting. Okay, it's not showing that on my end. Hold on one second.
Yeah, because I know you did it before when we
tested. How is that?
Let's see. There you go. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that.
For now. And if there's anything that I need to interrupt you for, I will unmute.
Sounds great. And like she said, everyone feel free to put your questions in the chat box today. Thank you for being here today. I'm happy to be back with Family to Family, and I just love Judy and Leslie. They are a wealth of knowledge, and I love consulting them on things as well. We kind of bounce ideas off of them. So you've got a powerhouse there with Mary Jane and all of them. So again, Allison Schaberg, Consolidated Planning Group. We are a holistic special needs financial planning firm. We do a lot of webinars on a pretty regular basis on a variety of topics surrounding special needs. I am empowered by my own passion. But clearly, I do this for a living, but I also am a mom to 4, and I have 2 kids with special needs myself. I have one that is still a minor, and I have one that transitioned into adulthood. And part of the thing that drives me is knowing what I know and my background, and I do this for a living. what I will say is that the transition and learning all of the things that you have to know as it relates to special needs, I mean, it's difficult at best. It's very challenging. And so some of the things that you never had to think about, we have our plates full anyway with our own stories and our own kids and things like that. But some of the things you never had to think about before, as you're kind of going into the transition mode, you have to start thinking about. So we're going to talk about those things. We're going to hit on a lot of areas. Basically, anything that we're talking about today that we may like kind of touch the tip of the iceberg on our YouTube channel, which we'll provide at the end, we actually have full presentations on that specific topic. So if you need to go deeper and wider on a particular subject that you want to learn more about, the YouTube channel is going to be a great place for you to go. So as we're thinking about transition, I think, first and foremost, setting realistic expectations. And I kind of joke here and I say, okay, I roll. Like, what do you mean I need to set realistic expectations? Thank you for that. But no, I think what I mean by that is in life, we're always comparing. It starts early. It starts early where we're comparing our kids to other children, other kids their age, age appropriate behavior, all these other things. And the thing is the reality of it is our kids are a little bit different, and that's okay. And so I think, and I had to have this conversation with myself, with my own kids, is what is that realistic expectation for us? So there's society's realistic expectations, and then the realistic expectations for us, and really just kind of talking to yourself about permission to be where you are. So one of the things my husband, kind of his coined phrase is, you're never really behind. You are where you are. And so, but sometimes as parents, we feel like our kids are behind. Maybe they're lagging from an education perspective, and maybe they're lagging in a lot of different areas, but it's okay. They are where they are, and they're going to get where they're going. And so just kind of meeting them where they are is, I think, the very biggest thing. So understanding those diagnoses and challenges and strengths that may come with that, some of those things, as it relates to ASD kids, ADHD kids, the reality of the situation is from a maturity perspective. So although they might look the part as far as the age, but from a maturity perspective, I mean, we could be, 2 to 4 years, sometimes more, behind from a maturity perspective. So this is where we think about other options. It's not just the age-old options of we go to the public school, we finish public school, whether we finish at 18 or we stay longer and stay till 22. What is that non-traditional path look like? So some of these non-traditional paths and some of the things that you may have been exploring or might be doing right now are, extending school, again, maybe until age 22. Maybe your school district or maybe the private school that you're in, some of them have some really fantastic transition programs kind of to move that direction. But basically, what we say here is just really just keep an open mind and consider all of the options. While I understand that some of your children, realistically, they're never ever going to have a driver's license. So that's not a conversation. But some of our ASD kids, the high functioning ADHD kids, they either can or will have the ability to possibly drive one day. One of the things that I would say here, that I like to mention is there's 3 programs that I'm aware of that you, if you're wondering, so if you have a child that you're thinking might be able to drive one day, there's 3 programs that I'm aware of that can do assessments. So for kids that brains function differently, maybe they might have some processing speed delays or working memory issues or other things like that. Tier Memorial Hermann, okay, so Tier Memorial Hermann has a program where they can do an assessment. It's usually covered by your insurance, and it's kind of a similar assessment that they would do for people that basically had a stroke. are thinking, or whether or not they could go back to driving one day, or maybe they had some kind of disabling event. But this, it is all at the facility. It is nothing behind the wheel. But they can do some very comprehensive assessments that can put some data in your hands that will tell you as a parent whether or not a driver's license is in the cards, or you should be thinking about that. Furthermore, there are 2 driving schools that I'm familiar with that do a good job of disability driving, behind the wheel practice for individuals with disability. I've used both. Miller Driving Rehab is one of them, Miller Driving Rehab, and they do a great job. And Strawmat, I don't know if it's Strawmat Driving Rehab, but Strawmat is another one. So you might want to consider those 3 options if that's on your radar. So another option, what about trade school or community college? Is there a license or a certification that your loved one can get? There are a lot of programs, we'll talk about them in a minute, that have some various certifications. Maybe it's in restaurant, maybe it's in early childhood development. It could be any number of things. But kind of look at some of these programs out there. Some of them have, a really, really good track record with working with kids with disability. Lone Star Community College has a good track record with working with kids with disabilities. There's a lot of them. But just think about that. But also maybe thinking about like a lower course load. So maybe your child is graduating, and maybe we're thinking, that ideally you would like to have a certificate program or something, maybe, a community college, but a full load of 12 credit hours is just not in the cards. It's okay to have one class to test the waters. And for people that are still in high school, there are some dual credit. Maybe we have some homeschoolers out there. Basically, the Houston Community College offers dual credit. So you could actually dip your toe in right now and try a dual credit course while your child is still in high school or homeschooled, kind of to see how that goes. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So we talked about the reduced.
Allison,
yes.
Someone also mentioned there is stress-free driving offered by Texas Workforce Commission.
Great. That was not available when my daughter came through.
Yeah, it must be newer. So thank you so much for letting us know that, Juanita. And then Paul had asked, can you post the driving programs Allison just mentioned in the chat, please? So
Judy, if you'll look up a link, it's Miller Driving Rehab and Strawmat is
Miller Driving, I'm sorry.
Miller Driving Rehab, and Strawmat is like STROWMATT. I think you can find it, and you can post that in the chat box. But again, both of those driving programs, they're relatively expensive, but like on the scale of expense, what I would say is it's worth it. I mean, it's your loved one and their safety and the safety of others. So it is relatively expensive. Sometimes they take insurance, sometimes they don't. But the Tier Memorial Hermann program takes insurance. So you might be able to get that assessment through Tier and, have it mostly covered by your insurance. And think about living at home versus on campus. Some of our kids are not ready for that on-campus experience, or, think about their environment basically and where they might thrive or where they might fail. Some of our ADHD kids that are, maybe a little bit less mature for their age, the on-campus dorm setting might be a bad situation for them. But basically, I just want to go back to just no comparisons. We are where we are, and that's, what we're, really, we want to meet them where they are so we can give them the tools and resources so they can kind of move to the next step. So finding a good fit, we're talking about schools and colleges, extracurricular activities, career path, and work setting. And one of the things that I would say that I've seen over time is, I don't know about you guys, but it kind of sneaks up on you. Your child's about to be 18. It's like you had all of these years, and even when they start high school, you think, oh, I have 4 more years, and it just flies by. But what we don't want to see is to where they come, they leave the public high school, they leave their school or their transition program, and there's no plan. They sit at home and they're playing Fortnite or whatever it is that they're doing. We want to see some kind of stimulation, whatever it might be. There's all kinds of things out there. So from a work setting, and we do have entire presentations about this, but because somebody just mentioned the Texas workforce, basically Texas Workforce Commission, Texas Workforce Solutions, the Texas Workforce Commission has a program called vocational rehab. Some of you may already have children in this program. They have school coordinators at your local school. If you're homeschooled, you can reach out to the Texas Workforce Commission directly and talk to them about vocational rehab. But the cool thing about this, so if you didn't know about this, the cool thing about this is, this is really a program for individuals with a disability that basically their disability would cause an impediment to employment. Okay, and so the Workforce Commission, they have a lot of funding, and basically what they will do is they will assess your child individually. It's very, very tailored to your child and their individual needs to find out what kind of assessments might be necessary to determine what are the specific impediments to employment and what kind of training, support, tools, or resources do your child need so they can close that gap to basically gainful employment. So if you haven't heard about vocational rehab, check out that video on our YouTube channel. Go to their website. They've got a lot of information. We've got the Texas Workforce Solutions. They've had maybe some of your kids may have participated in the Summer Earn and Learn program, which was basically they help your child find a job. They have a coach. They have support. $10 an hour for 12 weeks over the summer. So those are some other programs that you may also consider. You can start this as young as your child being 14 years old. So they might not even be old enough to start working yet because they're not 16, but closing some of those gaps and getting some of those trainings and things like that can be very, very helpful. Another thing that I will say, and this is not like a carte blanche that Workforce Commission does this, the VR program does this, but some of these assessments that they do, it could be a vocational evaluation. That could be an example of one. Another type of assessment, I mean, there's so many, but it could be a psych eval. They might do a learning disabilities evaluation. There could be a number of assessments that they do, and they are covered by that program. So what I do know as a parent is that we often, these neuropsych tests could cost, $2,500, $3,500 and might not be covered by your insurance. Usually tests for learning disabilities are not covered by your insurance. And granted, if your public school district feels that the tests are warranted, there are some tests like for learning disabilities and other things that they'll do, but typically the big tests that you need are typically not covered by the school. Do we have some questions, Judy?
Let me check. Yes, thank you. Well, Leslie had put in, it's millerrehabdriving.com. Juanita mentioned that Texas A&M has a special program called Spectrum LLC, where they help autistic students to college. It is a dorm floor where only students with autism or people interested in learning about them can live on that dorm floor. They have an extra man in addition to an RA to help the students transition to college. They have social events to help them socialize, and last year even had Temple Grandin help for these students. So thank you so much for that, Juanita. There are a number of programs around the country. There's a great website called thinkcollege.net, thinkcollege.net, and that's really a great program. If you're looking locally, Lee College in Baytown, UH Clear Lake has a wonderful Connecting to College program. I know both of those leaders of that program. So yes, thank you, Allison.
Yes, for sure. So let's talk about those accommodations. This is a big thing. We're always throwing around the ARD meetings, the IEPs, the 504s, the accommodations that you have in place in your school, whether it's a private school or a public school. But what is important to understand is as you're transitioning to the college level, whether it be the community college or it be the university, what you have to understand is the accommodations that you have in the public school don't just automatically transfer to the college or the university. So you're going to want to start this process early. So if your child is taking the SAT, ACT, AP exams, you're going to want to check specifically with the SAT. It's the college board. I think it's collegeboard.org or something like that. And then the ACT has their own website. But if you go to their website and in the search bar, if you say accommodations, requesting accommodations, then you're going to pull up the form. Each of them have their own form to request accommodations for the SAT, ACT. Some of the accommodations that you might get might be similar to some that you have in the public school, like extra time. It could be 50%, it could be 100% more time. It could be a testing in a non-distracted area or testing with a one-on-one proctor. So for your kids that have anxiety or test anxiety or other things like that, you might be able to get that accommodation. So basically what I want to say is just check early and be prepared. And what I will tell you is none of the schools, colleges, or universities are created equally as it relates to what they require to get accommodations. So when it comes to colleges and universities, they have an Office of Disability. It might be called ODS or Disability Services or something like that. So whatever colleges or universities that you're thinking about, you're going to want to check with the Office of Disability first. I would say I kind of did it backwards. I narrowed it down to the schools of what we were thinking about as far as a major, and then I narrowed it down to who has the best disability office, and the ones that didn't have good disability offices, I just took them off the list, is basically how I did it. You can do it however you want, but find out what their requirements are, determine what your accommodations are necessary and why, and just know that a lot of these schools, so this is one thing that the pandemic actually helped, didn't make worse. So a lot of these schools basically says that the testing has to be within the last 3 to 5 years. Some schools might say the neuropsych testing needs to be done in the last 2 years. Some might say 5 years. They've become a little bit more relaxed. Again, it's not universal. All schools are different, so you got to check. But they've become a little bit more relaxed during the pandemic because a lot of the neuropsych testers that do that were basically behind because they weren't seeing patients for a number of months or time or whatever they were doing, and they know that, so they've kind of been a little bit accommodating with that. Another thing that I want to mention to you, so again, this testing is typically pretty expensive, and your school district typically doesn't pay for this testing, and it's not something that they do. But another thing, maybe your child has a disability that is a consistent disability. It's the same. It's always the same. It's never going to change. It doesn't get better. Some schools are accepting testing that is older than 5 years, accompanied with a letter from your primary care physician or the psychologist or psychiatrist and whoever you see on a regular basis. So I've definitely seen schools do that. So there's multiple things going on here is the SAT and ACT accommodations. And let's just talk a little secret about the SAT and the ACT. Some of our kids just aren't cut out to take the SAT and the ACT, and that is okay. Because if you are entering into the community college first, as opposed to the university, you simply don't have to take the SAT or ACT, so you don't have to stress about that. In the state of Texas, the readiness test for college is the TSI. It's the Texas Success Initiative. There's all kinds of TSI practice tests out there on the internet. Some of them are free, some of them you can pay for. But if your mission is to go in through the community college first, you simply don't have to worry about the SAT or ACT unless you just think your child's going to do great on it and they're not stressed about it. So just think about that. That is an option. And the TSI is the test that I mentioned. So talking about reasonable accommodations, so if it doesn't create an undue hardship, we've got the Department of Labor and askjan.org as far as job accommodations. Again, when you're working with the Texas Workforce Commission or the Texas Workforce Solutions, they're going to help with all of these things. So you don't have to be like the be all end all knowledgeable about all of this stuff. You just have to be smart enough to reach out to them and partner with a consultant with them. One thing that I will say about those two entities is kind of they kind of work together and they are separate. It's Texas Workforce Solutions, Texas Workforce Commission. Over the years, there's been a lot of people that have said, well, I can't get them to call me back, or my consultant is gone, or they said they were going to do something and they didn't do it, or I've had this bad experience or whatever. There are community liaisons now for those programs, which were hired to kind of close the gap on some of the issues that those groups have seen. They're doing a really great job. They're working really hard. So even if you've had a bad experience in the past, I would say give them another try, give them another chance, because they really, really can be helpful to your student. Okay, so this is not an exhaustive list. I don't work for any of them and they don't work for me. But here are some options, and I don't even think the one that Judy mentioned is on here, but some of the options that are available in the state of Texas. I think we do have one that's Lynn University, which is in Florida. It's not here. But there are a number of programs that are out there for our kids with disabilities. We actually do have a webinar on our YouTube channel where we had like a member from a lot of these different programs that basically said, here's who we are, here's what we do, here's who we serve, here's how long the program is, whether it's a degree program or a certificate program. So my advice, again, is start early, research the offices of disability at any of the facilities that you're looking at. For consideration, what tools and resources do they have? Some schools, some private schools have a one-man disability office, and the man might be fabulous, but they don't have as many tools and resources as some of the other larger offices of disabilities that might be critical to your child's success. Another thing with some of these programs, the Achieve, the PATH program, BASS, STEPS, all of these programs, you might want to check early because they do have a limited number of students. It's not just this, forever enrollment or whatever that they take everybody. So this is all I have to say is getting started early on any of these is just a pretty important step along the way. Judy, do we have some questions? You're on mute.
I was trying to be respectful there. So
No worries.
just, comments more than anything. Oh, okay. No, Juanita put it in about stress-free driving. But yes, the hours have to be approved through TWC. And speaking of TWC, a lot of times people don't know who their TWC rep is if your child is in high school. So your high school should have a Texas Workforce Commission representative assigned to them. If you're not sure who that is, I would ask the person who runs the special education meetings and ask them. But usually they're assigned to the high school. And you can always find out that way. So thank you, Juanita, for posting their phone number. Leslie posted the Memorial Herman driving program. And Tammy Christopher has asked, how do I find a community liaison for TWC? It's very difficult. So Tammy,
it's Marilyn Gilbreth. is Marilyn Gilbreth is the community liaison, and on our YouTube channel, we have multiple presentations with Marilyn, and all of her contact information and everything is definitely out there. So she is great. And if you want to email me after this, then I can forward it to you. I can put that out there as well, but she's pretty great. And so she's a community liaison, and then what she'll do is she will find out who your who you would be assigned to. So like Fort Bend County goes to the Rosenberg office, Harris County, so they assign the office, and then they assign the counselor that they think might be the best fit for your unique situation. So we'll definitely get that out there. So
Allison,
yes.
I've gone ahead and posted Marilyn's email just while it was on everyone's mind in the chat box. So you can reach out to her directly, Tammy. Thank you.
Perfect. So Bloom Consulting, who is Bloom Consulting? So they're somebody that we have partnered with over the last year or so, and they are really, you just got to check them out. You got to go to their website because they got a lot going on. But they are really working with families that are transitioning and helping closing some of the gaps that may be out there. But what I will tell you is the Texas Workforce Commission also works with Bloom Consulting. So you could go to Bloom Consulting yourself and get the tools and resources that you need and pay for it out of pocket. But if the vocational rehab seems to think that some of the assessments or some of the training that could benefit your child, you may end up at Bloom Consulting anyway, and the vocational rehab will be footing the bill. So you might want to consider this. But what I want to talk to you about in particular is their Campus Connections program, because we're talking about transitioning. So this is basically a program to support neurodiverse college students with various disabilities as they attend post-secondary institutions. And this basically, it's just a wraparound planning process. They really work with your student and support them, kind of navigating them, mentoring, guidance, all the things that I don't know about your teenagers, but like sometimes our teenagers don't want to hear from us. They don't want our advice, but they take it readily from other people. And so this kind of takes part of that difficult stuff out of the equation, but they can, really work alongside your team that is going to the university. It's $1,000 per month. Which sounds expensive. It's pretty affordable comparatively to some of the other programs out there, but they really, really do a great job. So Bloom Consulting is just a website you might want to check out. Also, there is the college living experience in Brenham. Is that right? Yes, Brenham, the college living experience, and they have a really good program as well. And they're, working on some of those life skills and independent living skills. The kids can live there. They can go to the community college or the local university. And it's pretty, comprehensive, and they really help. But you would have the college living experience fees associated with that, along with the college tuition fees. But college living experience may be something that you want to check out. From a financial perspective, college living experience can be cost prohibitive for some. I would say it's about $50,000 to $55,000 a year for the college living experience, which covers their living and everything that they're doing with them. And they really, really do a lot. It's a pretty fabulous program, but that might be, cost prohibitive for some. Okay, how do I get started with special needs planning? So first things first, work with a special needs planner to help you formulate a plan. What do you mean? What is a special needs planner? So we get that question all the time. I have a financial planner. Why do I need a special needs planner? What are the differences? So some of the differences are a special needs planner basically has all of the same licenses that your financial advisor has, only they are nuanced in special needs. Like for instance, we're a National Social Security advisor. So we are nuanced in all things as it relates to special needs, and your situation is special. And it's just kind of like the same concept that if you had a heart problem, you're not going to go to a primary care physician, you're going to go see a cardiologist. as it relates to special needs, you want to make sure that you're really working with somebody that is nuanced and special needs, because what can happen, and it may have not happened before, and maybe you've never been worried about this before because your child hadn't turned 18. Things change drastically when your child turns 18 and we're transitioning into adulthood. And what can happen is an advisor that you're working with that is not nuanced and special needs can accidentally, and it's not intentional, can accidentally mess you up. You could have money in the wrong buckets. Your child could have money in the wrong buckets that could either prevent them from qualifying for state or federally funded programs or benefits, or it could also cause them to lose necessary benefits. So that is, one of many reasons. What is the difference between a special needs planner and a special needs attorney, and why do I need both? That's a question that we get all the time as well. And so really a special needs planning attorney, I like to say that they're the paper and we're the money. So you need the attorney. You need the special needs planning attorney. The special needs planning attorney is the one that creates the documents such as guardianship, supported decision-making, power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney. That's the paper. You need those documents. But we're the money, special needs trust. So the attorney is going to create that special needs trust, but the special needs trust isn't worth the paper that it's written on if we don't know where the funding is coming for the future care for your child. So when it comes to getting started, we want you to gather all the necessary planning documents. These are all things that you have planned so far. Investment statements, insurance statements, any type of coverage that you have, such as life insurance, disability, long-term care, all of those things that are basically things that you're considering for funding your own retirement for 25 to 35 years, and also future funding for your special needs child that might need care for the rest of their life. So basically, whether you're a single parent or you're married, if you're a single parent, you've got one retirement. If you have a special needs child that's going to need care for the rest of their life, it's almost like another bucket of retirement. So when we're married, we have husband and wife retirement, roughly 25 to 35 years, but then your special needs child could also need funding for the next 25 to 35 years once you're gone. So that's why it's so super important to get started as soon as you can. So sometimes I hear people say, well, I'd be embarrassed for you to look and see what I've done, or I haven't done that much, or I got started and then life got busy, life got challenging, and I put it on the shelf and I need to pick up, where I left off. And what I will tell you is, just give yourself some grace here. It's not about looking back. You're here today. It's about looking forward and taking the steps that you need to take to be successful. So just, kind of really just assess where you are, where you've been, and, where you feel like you might need to go. And we can definitely partner with you in those types of things. Another thing that we talk about is a letter of intent. A letter of intent, I also commonly refer to this as a family love letter. As mom or dad, we eat, sleep, and breathe our children. We know everything. We know what makes them tick, what makes them melt down, their medications, their allergies, the name, address of their doctors, all of the dates of diagnosis, and any of the background information, all of their school records, those types of things. Well, what if something happened to you or the other parent that knows all of these things? What if you're not here anymore, or what if you become incapacitated and somebody has to fill in the gaps? So a letter of intent, we actually do have a letter of intent template, and it basically it gets all of this down on paper. So that way, if something happens to you or you become incapacitated, your intentions for your loved one are crystal clear, and somebody can pick this up and try to more easily fill your shoes, which they'll never be able to do. But what makes this, when you don't have these things, and especially if you've got kids that have, comprehensive, medical history and, critical needs, it's really important to get this down. And
Allison?
basically, yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Sure. No.
I didn't catch this one. The question was asked, can the Campus Connections cost be covered by the College 529C? Or does she need to reach out to?
It's a stress. it's a stretch that it could be covered. It's a maybe. It's kind of a stretch, and it's a maybe that it could be covered by a 529C, but it can be covered by a 529A for ABLE. So we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
And so when you're thinking about your vision on how you hope things will look for your special needs child, I need you to add how you hope things will look for you or you and your spouse. Because I think as parents, we're always so busy putting everybody else's needs above our own. And the reality of it is you work 25, 35, 40 years in the workplace, and you save money, and you're putting money aside, and you have hopes and dreams. So you have goals and are things that you might want to do in retirement. And so as you're thinking of transitioning, think about balance. Think about respite. Think about time for yourself, time for travel, time for some of the things that you want to do too, and try to strike that balance. Because what we often see is parents that are overdoing it, and they're not looking at it at all from a perspective of things that they need or want. And there is an element of burnout, or where a parent actually becomes sick. Their own wellness is kind of going down the tubes because there's not balance there. So definitely kind of think about those things. Okay. So who will care for my child when I'm gone? This is a question that we hear a lot. And so while some families have big, huge families and lots of siblings and, just extended family, and we know crystal clear if something happens to both parents, we know crystal clear who will care for your child that has care needs for the rest of their life. Developing a future care plan now is really going to answer these questions. We're able to develop a future care plan, which will basically come up with how much do we need to be looking at? What is the cost of future care? What is full care? What is partial care? What if we do a transition program? What if we need to hire a nanny or a caregiver if we're not getting any waivers or things like that? So we can run those numbers, and the sooner you have those run, the better, because you're able to, make definitive decisions as it relates to planning and the money and having money in the right buckets. Another thing is consider touring care facilities such as Brookwood, Marbridge Foundation, Daymark Living. There are facilities all over the state. We do have a spreadsheet. Again, they don't work for us. We don't work for them. But we do have a spreadsheet of a lot of the different facilities. And these are places that you may want to consider touring and getting your name on the list, because some of these places might have 5-year waiting lists. But what you will find, and there is, this was a long one. I will preface it by saying that this webinar was a long one, but we actually, I think a month or two ago, we did a care facility webinar. And again, basically the heads of, I don't know, I think there was 10 or 12 different facilities came on and said who they are, who they serve, where they're located, about how much they cost, and what they do. So it was like an hour and a half webinar. So that might give you kind of an indication of ones that you might be interested. And what I'm not saying is, okay, here's how soon you can institutionalize your children. And that's not what I'm saying. But what I will say is that all families have a different path or a different goal in mind. So some families, their kids graduate, they go into a transition program, maybe they go to the university, maybe they go to the community college. Some families stay in a transition program for a number of years. They want their child to live with them at home until they retire themselves, maybe at 67, some people at 70. There's no right or wrong answers is the main thing that I want to say. But you got to plan, and you got to have a plan. So if you put your name on these waiting lists, and your name comes up, you don't have to take the slot, but at least you have the option that you could take the slot. Another thing is what you'll find, because I went and toured these facilities, is that the residents, or whatever they call them different things at each of the facilities, they're happy there. They're amongst their peers. They have jobs. They're working. They're important, and they're having fun. They're having fun. So I was just, I don't know, I just love touring these facilities, seeing how things were going and things were good. And the last thing here is we just really want to say, and we're not stepping on anybody's toes here, but make careful considerations before naming siblings as a future caregiver. And this is really important from a hopes and dreams perspective. So if we have a sibling that's a little bit older or whatever, and our idea is that, okay, well, we're going to be the primary caregiver for your loved one with special needs. And if something happens to us, then that's easy. His brother will be his primary caregiver. And so what we say to this is his brother or his sister, they have hopes and dreams too, just like we did when we were 18 years old and we want to go to college, or we wanted to have a house, or we wanted to get married or have kids or have a wonderful career. They have hopes and dreams too. And some of those things may not be possible if they're saddled with the primary caregiving responsibilities of your loved one. So what we like to see, so it's not about, not loving the family or something. We just don't want this to be an obligatory, yes from a sibling, because if they were to say no, then they simply just don't love their brother or sister, because that isn't the case at all. But one of the things that, with careful planning and, having a special needs trust, the trust is funded with adequate money to have adequate care for your loved one. And that sibling can be the trustee of the trust and can be, basically the guardian to where they navigate and find the right care for your loved one. So that is another way to look at it. Judy, do we have any questions?
You'd think I would know that unmute button quickly by now,
Sure.
Where can we find a special needs planner? Is there an organization?
So there is not an organization. Consolidated Planning Group, that's who we are. That's what we do, is special needs planning. There are a few others in and around the Houston area, and you can Google those, but there's not necessarily a special needs planning per se organization. And we'll have our contact information at the end. Any additional questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And then so for now, I'll put the last questions to the end because we're getting kind of towards the end. So how will my child's care be funded? So basically, we want to preserve eligibility for state and federally funded programs, SSI and Medicaid. SSI may be something that your child is already getting. SSI and Medicaid, it's a means-based program. So in order, if your child is under 18, it's based off of your assets, your means. So if you're married, you can have $3,000 to your name, one house and one car. If you're single, you can have $2,000 to your name, one house and one car. If your child is under 18, then that's how they would go about getting SSI and Medicaid. But a lot of families do not qualify for SSI and Medicaid until—
1 second, Allison. Hold
Sure.
on 1 second. I'm trying to see who. Oh, there we go. Okay, I got it. My apologies. Go ahead.
Sure. So a lot of families don't qualify for SSI and Medicaid until their child turns 18. So first things first, if your child is already getting SSI and Medicaid, they're under 18. When your child turns 18, there is a redetermination. So you do need to schedule an appointment with your Social Security office, your local Social Security office, the month that your child turns 18. If your child is not getting SSI and Medicaid, guess what? Newsflash, you've never qualified before, but when your child turns 18, it's based off of their means, not yours. So as long as your child doesn't have more than $2,000 in their name, they have a qualifying disability, then they'll qualify for SSI and Medicaid. So you're going to want to schedule an appointment with your local Social Security office, again, the month that they turn 18. It does not have to be after their birthday. Right now, SSI is $794 a month, basically, if there's a rent or a fair share agreement in place. And if there's not, I believe it's $522 a month. So you'll want to, and again, we have presentations, SSI and Medicaid, Social Security, Disability, Medicare is a very, very, very convoluted topic, and it confuses most people. We do have complete webinars with the community liaison for Social Security, which is Andy Hardwick. We have that. We have multiple presentations on SSI and kind of what to do, even working while getting benefits. We have stuff like that as well. So another component is Social Security, disability, and Medicare. So basically, from a disability perspective, if your child's disability began prior to age 22, and you can establish that with the Social Security Administration, they may qualify for childhood disability benefits. They were formerly called the disabled adult child under a parent's record. And so basically what this means, and you may have not known this, but so if your child is a disabled adult child under a parent's record, when you become disabled through Social Security or retire through Social Security, if they qualify for the child disability benefits, basically they're going to be entitled to 50% of your disability or retirement benefits for as long as you're alive. And upon your death, they'll be entitled to 75% of your benefits. Now, your benefits are not reduced. And there are some convoluted calculations. We actually have a specialized software that actually tells families exactly when and how they should turn on their Social Security. It takes into consideration both workers, if you're married, or just you if you're not. And it also calculates the child disability benefits as well. So a Social Security analysis may be something that might be in order for you, especially if you're in that kind of retirement zone, or you're kind of pre-retiree and you're really thinking about these things, or you've had questions about when or what is the best strategy for turning on your Social Security. It matters if you have a special needs kid. It's not your run-of-the-mill, well, let me wait till 70 because I'll save 8%, I'll make, 8% a year. It's not that simple. It's a little bit more convoluted. So another place, current life insurance and assets provide funding for a special needs trust. And also the special needs trust is where you can have money above and beyond the means-based test of the $2,000 I was talking about for SSI. You can have an unlimited amount of money in a special needs trust. And you can also have an ABLE account, a 529A for an ABLE account. That is another place that you can have money that will not count against them for SSI purposes. In an ABLE account, you can basically only put $15,000 a year into an ABLE account unless they're working, and that amount would increase a little bit if they're working. I think it's an additional $12,000. It's at least $12,000. I think it's just short of $13,000 that you can put in additionally. But an ABLE account cannot have more than $100,000 in it because if it does, you will disqualify for SSI. Life insurance and other assets also commonly fund the trust. So where does the money come from? A lot of people need their retirement assets while they're in retirement. If you're going to live 25 to 35 years in retirement, you're probably going to need your retirement assets. So then how do we fund the trust for the future care of our children? And a lot of times life insurance on the parents that upon their death will fund the trust is where that money comes from. Okay, so I hit on the ABLE accounts. I'm not going to spend too much time. The beneficiary is the account owner. The basic thing that you need to know about ABLE accounts is what you can spend out of an ABLE account is very much, it's really broad, basically. So what you need to know is if it can be construed as achieving a better life for an individual with disabilities, you can pay for it out of an ABLE account, okay? So beneficiary is the account owner. It does not jeopardize SSI, Medicaid, and other public benefits. One thing to know on an ABLE account, and so we talked about SSI, being a disabled adult child if the disability started prior to age 22. In this example, to have an ABLE account, the disability needed to start prior to age 26, okay? So just giving you that little bit of data there. Okay, so special needs trust and guardianship. So we've kind of hit on that a little bit. Again, all of these topics are on the YouTube channel. A special needs trust is going to preserve benefit eligibility while providing resources for your special needs child. One little caveat, people ask me all the time, why do I need a special needs trust and an ABLE account? Why, if I can have an unlimited amount of money in a special needs trust, why do I need an ABLE account? And basically, the ABLE account can pay for food and shelter, housing and rent, mortgage payments, rent, and a special needs trust basically can't. So those are some of the issues with that. As far as guardianship, it can be applied for 6 months prior to the child turning 18. There are other options in the state of the state of Texas, which would be supported decision-making, power of attorney, healthcare with power of attorney. And what we'll say here is work with a qualified attorney. This is really important. So just like you have a specialized situation, you should work with a special needs planner. You have a specialized situation, you should work with a special needs planning attorney that is really adept in these types of matters, not one that says, yes, I can do that, right? So attorneys, they all go to school, they all are very smart, they're highly intelligent, but a lot of them are nuanced in different different areas of law. And if special needs is not their area of specialty, I would not work with them. And this is where people ask, can I do it myself? And basically the answer is no. I mean, there may be some stuff like a healthcare power of attorney and a power of attorney that you could probably do yourself. But because of the laws and what constitutes qualified as a special needs trust and what doesn't in the state of Texas, again, there's some things that I'll be happy to tell you how to do things yourself and what you should do yourself and how you can save money, but this is not one area that I suggest, and we're happy to make referrals. I know family to family can make referrals as well. We have a lot of attorneys that we work with that do a fabulous job, and most of them that we work with have special needs kids themselves, and they really that have transitioned, they really know what they're doing. So we've kind of hit a lot of all of these things, but these are some of the things that should be on your radar. One important thing that I didn't mention, and I always try to mention this every presentation, if you happen to be in a divorce situation and you are getting child support, and that child support will continue beyond age 18 of your special needs child, it is really important for that child support to be redirected to a special needs trust. If it's not, it will be countable as income, and basically they're not going to qualify for SSI and Medicaid. So you can have some real issues real quickly, and it's not, and a lot of times nobody even thought about that. Maybe you worked with a divorce attorney that didn't have any background in special needs at all. So that just is something that if that's you, get going on that sooner versus later. If you guys can come to an agreement, if it's the same money and you can come to an agreement, you can have an attorney draw it up, and then it can be put forth. It can be put forth to be signed off on by a judge. I went just a little bit over. We've got our Facebook page, our YouTube channel. I mentioned that many times. There's a lot of content on our YouTube channel. We're here to help. If you need a Social Security assessment, you need a full scale, special needs assessment. What are we looking at as special care calculations? We can certainly help you with that. You can reach out. I think that we will be putting out an email. I don't know if you guys do this or we do this with the recording and how to contact us. And there is a schedule here button too. So if you're interested in talking about your unique situation, we're happy to chat with you and answer any questions that you have. Just any last questions, Judy?
Compliments from Paul and Faith, certainly myself. This was terrific. Everyone said, helpful information, great information. It really helps you to think in a clear and concise way. So this is really terrific. I can't.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, no, this was really great. So if you would like a, oh, by the way, if you have to leave us now, we want to be respectful of everyone's time. I put the survey link in the chat box, and this is so important because the more we know, the more we grow. And the day we stop learning is the day we stop living. So we're always looking to improve ourselves. So please complete the survey and be honest. If there's anything you need additional follow-up on, I will certainly put my email address as well. Juanita, you're so welcome. We're happy you could join us. So I'm going to put my email address again. If you would like the PDF slides and the recording, please email me and I will be happy to share that with you. Allison's door is open. She has an excellent team. And please know that you can reach out to her. She has listed her information here, and she would be happy to help in any way that she can.
For
Any
sure.
last
And
minute-
one last thing I think I would like to say is just wherever you are in this planning process, maybe you're just at the beginning, maybe you're kind of far along the way, or you're saying, well, maybe I'm looking at retirement now and I realize I haven't, I don't know all some of the special needs stuff and I need help with this. It doesn't matter where you are. Like I said, no looking back. It's looking forward. You are here today, and you're, as my husband says, you're not behind. You are where you are. And so just, get started. If you can take, I always say 1 to 3 nuggets of the things we talked about a lot today, but if you could take 1 to 3 nuggets to implement in the next 24 to 48 hours, you're moving it. You're moving it along. So I just wanted to encourage you. I've been there. I get it. And like I said, I do this. I do this for a living, but I live it as a parent with 2 kids with special needs. And so I do know it's hard, but it is truly our hope to take some of that burden off of you. So thanks so much, Judy and Leslie. Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. Yeah, and that's one of the things we always stress at Family to Family Network is having a plan. And if you're getting started late, it's okay. You didn't know what you didn't know, and you can only move forward at this point. My sons are 30 and 26. Leslie's son is about that age. And, we're all doing the best we can as parents. And I always say, if anybody thinks they can do our job better, please sign up. And I have yet to have anyone sign up for mine. So just know that we're all in this here together. We're all here to help you. And, please don't beat yourself up, but have a plan. Because the last thing you want is for family members to be, God forbid, fighting after you're gone about what happens. Everything is up in the air. There's no plan. All of a sudden, you've been hospitalized for surgery. You don't know. If you have a plan, usually that removes some of that stress. We know that it's difficult to make the decisions. We know that completely. But at least the decisions are made. They can be changed, but at least they're made and you have that plan. So thank you all so much for joining us. Please complete the survey. Please email us if you would like the slides, or Allison can send you the slides. Her email address is there. And if you would like a copy of the recording, I am most happy to share it with you. Someone had asked if it will be in Spanish. I'm so sorry to say it won't be. I apologize for that. But our assistant is bilingual and she is happy to answer any questions, or she can forward you to the appropriate person to get those questions answered. So thank you, Allison. Leslie, thank you. I wish you all a fantastic rest of the day. Thank you, Teresa. So glad you enjoyed this, and I'm thrilled that that it was so helpful. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.